This single factory processes over 500 tons of honey every single day, and almost nobody knows what happens inside.
Centrifugal force pulls honey from every single cell in under 4 minutes, flat.
Before a single jar is filled, raw honeycomb must be uncapped by hand and machine across millions of frames.
1,000 jars every hour. Every jar identical. Every jar perfect. It begins here with 50,000 bees per hive working every hour of every day.
This is what the world's largest honey processing facility looks like, Abrous. And this is what happens inside.
Honeycomb frames arrive from apiaries located across hundreds of kilometers of farmland.
Each box contains up to 10 honeycomb frames, as bands, each frame holding over 2 kilograms of raw honey. Only frames with fully capped honey cells enter processing ferns. Uncapped honey contains too much moisture.
Honey above 20% moisture will ferment in the jar canned. Field testing prevents this before processing begins.
Every batch is screened for antibiotic residues, pesticides, and authenticity markers before entering the factory.
Pollen analysis confirms the geographical origin and floral source of every honey batch.
Nuclear magnetic resonance testing detects even 1% sugar syrup adulteration. The factory accepts only pure honey.
Approved frames are held at 18 degrees Celsius, warm enough to keep honey fluid, cool enough to prevent fermentation. Warming frames to hive temperature makes extraction faster and more complete. No honey left behind in the comb. At peak harvest season, this warehouse holds enough honeycomb to fill over 2 million jars. Human inspection catches contaminated frames that automated systems might miss. From this point forward, the honey begins its journey from raw comb to perfect jar. Industrial uncapping machines process over 500 frames every single hour.
The blade heats to exactly 60 degrees, warm enough to melt wax caps cleanly without heating the honey beneath.
The moment the caps are removed, honey that took carnelian honeybees 6 weeks to produce begins its factory journey. Nothing is wasted. Beeswax cappings are collected and processed separately into premium cosmetic-grade wax. Pure beeswax becomes a premium byproduct worth as much as the honey itself in cosmetic and pharmaceutical markets. Inside this room, raw honey is separated from honeycomb using nothing but centrifugal force. Each extractor holds up to 72 frames, spinning all simultaneously for maximum efficiency.
At 300 RPM, centrifugal force pulls honey from every cell in under 4 minutes.
This is one of the most beautiful and satisfying sights in all of food manufacturing. A single extraction cycle produces over 200 kilograms of raw honey per load. Raw honey from multiple extractors combines in collection tanks before the next stage begins. Foam skimming removes the first layer of wax particles and air bubbles before primary filtration. Raw honey moves continuously from extraction into the advanced filtration and processing stages. Filter mesh is measured in microns, small enough to catch wax but large enough to keep pollen intact. Primary filtration removes visible particles while preserving every beneficial enzyme and pollen grain. Gentle warming reduces viscosity without destroying the natural enzymes that give honey its health properties. Fine filtration removes remaining microparticles while keeping the natural pollen that authenticates floral origin. Premium honey grades receive ultra-fine polishing filtration for perfect visual clarity on retail shelves. De-aeration removes air trapped during extraction and filtration, preventing crystallization and preserving color. Most retail honey is a precisely calculated blend of multiple origins, designed for consistent flavor batch after batch. Every variety of honey has a completely different color, flavor, and sugar profile, titches, all processed in the same factory. Creamed honey is not whipped, it is seeded with fine crystals that cause the entire batch to crystallize in perfect smoothness.
The silky, smooth texture of creamed honey takes 72 hours of controlled temperature management to achieve.
Premium Manuka honey requires completely separate processing to prevent any cross-contamination with standard varieties. Manuka honey is legally required to meet minimum methylglyoxal levels before it can carry the certified Manuka label. A tanks hold processed honey at precisely the right temperature and viscosity for high-speed filling.
Every temperature excursion during processing is reviewed forward. Batches that deviate even slightly are reinvestigated. The Fund color scale classifies honey from water white to dark amber. Each grade commands different market prices.
Perfectly processed honey now enters the most impressive part of the factory, the high-speed filling operation. Welcome to the most productive room in the honey industry, where 1,000 jars are filled every single hour. Every single jar is inspected. One cracked jar that reaches filling would contaminate an entire production run. Internal cleaning ensures not a single dust particle enters the jar before honey filling begins.
One nozzle, one jar, exactly the same weight every single time. Accurate to within 1 gram.
32 filling nozzles operating simultaneously never stop. Jars flow in empty and flow out full without pause.
Even correctly weighed jars are visually inspected. Consistency of appearance matters as much as weight on retail shelves.
That satisfying snap of the tamper band is the moment the honey is completely sealed from the world. Each cap is torqued to an exact specification, tight enough for safety, light enough for consumers to open easily.
Induction sealing creates an invisible airtight foil barrier that preserves honey flavor and prevents moisture absorption.
Airtight sealing is critical. Honey is hygroscopic and will absorb moisture and ferment if even slightly exposed to air.
A brief settling period allows any filling bubbles to release before jars reach the label inspection cameras.
Sticky jar exteriors cause label adhesion failures. Exterior cleaning is a non-negotiable step before labeling.
Premium honey labels with gold foil elements take up to 8 print passes to produce.
Approval before labeling prevents mislabeled product or coupant, the most expensive type of recall in food manufacturing.
Front and back labels are applied simultaneously in perfect alignment, within 0.5 millimeter every time.
That gold label you peel off when you recycle the jar, it took more engineering than most people will ever know.
Vision inspection runs at the same speed as the labeling machine, 0 slowdown, 0 defects past this point.
Test before coating links every jar to the harvest batch, origin apiary, and complete processing history.
Squeeze bottles require completely different filling equipment from glass jars, different nozzle geometry, and fill speeds.
Robotic case packing handles glass jars with the precision required to prevent breakage at high production speeds. Case coating links every retail jar to its processing batch, enabling precise traceability across the supply chain. Robotic palletizers stack glass jar cases with care. Incorrect stacking would shatter the jars at the bottom of the pallet. Every pallet leaving this factory is traceable back to individual apiaries and harvest dates through its label. From this warehouse, honey travels to supermarkets, specialty stores, and export markets across the globe.
Behind every jar of certified honey is a laboratory that tested more parameters than most people can imagine.
HMF levels reveal if honey was overheated during processing. High levels indicate quality damage invisible to the eye. Diastase activity confirms the honey was never overheated mendient, protecting the natural enzymes consumers value.
The ratio of fructose to glucose determines whether honey will crystallize quickly or remain liquid for months.
Final moisture verification is the last line of defense against fermentation before jars reach consumers. Osmophilic yeast testing confirms honey will not ferment in the jar, the most commercially damaging defect possible.
A single honey batch is screened for over 400 different pesticide compounds before retail approval.
Expert sensory evaluation detects off flavors from fermentation, smoke, or chemical contamination that instruments miss. Crystallization testing predicts how long a product will remain liquid on the retail shelf, critical for consumer satisfaction.
Organic certification requires independent verification of every step, from apiary management to jar sealing. Isotope analysis can identify the exact geographical origin of honey, down to the country and even region of production.
Only when every single test passes does honey earn the right to carry the factory label and reach your table. Every part of this factory operates simultaneously. A perfectly synchronized machine processing nature's most complex food. One honeybee produces just 1/12 of a teaspoon of honey in her entire lifetime. Think about that next time you open a jar. While you have been watching this video this factory has filled over 8,000 jars of honey.
Honey production never stops, aren't you? Because bees never stops, aren't you? And neither does this factory.
Even people who work here every day still pause at the extraordinary flavor of honey fresh from the process.
This honey will travel to over 40 countries, carrying with it the flavor of flowers from a single harvest region.
Even the beekeepers who produce the raw honey are astonished the first time they see what happens to it in the factory.
Every color in this spectrum is real honey, same insect, different flowers, completely different flavors and properties.
That peel, that seal, that first glimpse of gold prey. Everything in this factory was built for this single moment, and that slow golden thread is the visual that has made honey the most photographed food ingredient in the world.
The hexagonal cell is the most efficient shape in nature. Bees discovered what mathematicians took centuries to prove. From 50,000 bees to this breakfast table, an extraordinary journey made possible by extraordinary engineering.
Before all the machines and science and engineering, honey is still one of the most magical things nature produces.
Two worlds, one product, the beekeeper who grows it and the engineer who perfects it, both essential.
The supermarket shelf is the end of a journey that began in a flower field, moved through a hive, and transformed inside this extraordinary factory.
Flowers, bees, comb, extract, filter, fill, seal, label, ship, open.
Behind every jar of honey is a team of people who take extraordinary pride in protecting what bees spent their lives making. "500 tons a day, processed with precision, sealed with care, delivered with pride. This is where your honey comes from." One jar, 50,000 carniolan honeybees, hundreds of factory workers. If this video showed you something extraordinary, subscribe. Every week we go inside the factories behind the products you use every single day.